In the summer of 1943, the fate of the entire Eastern Front hung by a thread. 2 million soldiers, 6,000 tanks, and 4,000 aircraft were about to collide. This is the Battle of Kursk, widely regarded as one of the largest armored battles in military history. By late 1942, Germany had suffered catastrophic defeat at Stalingrad, shattering the myth of invincibility. The German High Command desperately needed a decisive victory to reassert strategic dominance in the east. Soviet forces had created a massive salient near the city of Kursk, jutting westward into German lines. If Germany could pinch off the salient, it could encircle and destroy entire Soviet army groups. The operation received its codename, Operation Citadel, or in German, Unternehmen Citadel. Field Marshal Erich von Manstein and Colonel General Walter Model would command the two attack pincers. Germany's plan relied on new wonder weapons, the formidable Tiger I and Panther tanks. The Tiger I mounted an 88 mm gun capable of destroying any Soviet tank at extreme range. The new Panther tank, however, was rushed to the front with severe, unresolved mechanical problems. Soviet intelligence had already uncovered the German plan in extraordinary and remarkable detail. Soviet Marshal Georgy Zhukov proposed a bold and unconventional strategy: absorb the blow first. Rather than attack, Zhukov would let the Germans exhaust themselves against prepared defensive lines. Soviet engineers and soldiers constructed one of the most formidable defensive systems in military history. Nearly 500,000 anti-tank mines and 440,000 anti-personnel mines were laid across the salient's approaches. Soviet anti-tank gun batteries were positioned in depth, overlapping to create devastating interlocking fire. The Soviets also assembled a massive armored reserve behind the defensive lines, the steppe front. General Konstantin Rokossovsky commanded the central front, defending the northern shoulder of the salient. General Nikolai Vatutin led the Voronezh front, defending the southern shoulder against von Manstein's thrust. Germany delayed the operation repeatedly, waiting for enough Panthers and Tigers to reach the front. Every delay gave the Soviets more time to deepen and strengthen their defensive network even further. Operation Citadel finally launched in the early hours of July 4th and 5th, 1943. Soviet artillery launched a massive spoiling barrage just before the German assault could even begin. The German attackers were stunned, their own assault timetable disrupted before a single tank moved. In the north, Model's 9th Army drove south with 335,000 men and 1,200 armored vehicles. Model's advance ground to a horrifying halt against Rokossovsky's layered defensive belts almost immediately. German infantry and engineers suffered enormous casualties, forcing passage through dense Soviet minefields. The fighting for the village of Ponyry became one of the bloodiest micro-battles of the entire campaign. In the south, von Manstein's Army Group South attacked with 600 tanks and 200 assault guns. The SS Panzer Corps, including the elite divisions Leibstandarte, Das Reich, and Totenkopf, spearheaded the attack. Soviet anti-tank defenses in the south were formidable, but German forces made grimly determined progress. The German Panther tanks proved catastrophic. Hundreds broke down on the very first day of combat. The Tiger I, however, proved brutally effective. Its 88 mm gun dominated every Soviet tank at range. Soviet tank crews learned to close the range immediately to negate the Tiger's long-range advantages. Soviet Il-76 ground attack aircraft struck the German armored columns with devastating effectiveness. The air battle over Kursk was enormous. Over 2,000 aircraft clashed in the skies on the first day alone. By July 9th, German forces in the south had pushed 60 kilometers, but failed to break through completely. The climactic clash was coming, near a small rail junction called Prokhorovka on July 12, 1943. General Pavel Rotmistrov commanded the Soviet 5th Guards Tank Army, ordered to destroy the SS Panzer Corps. On July 12th, over 800 Soviet tanks and more than 600 German armored vehicles collided near Prokhorovka. Soviet T-34 tanks raced directly toward the German line at full speed to reduce the range advantage. Tanks exploded, burned, and collided at ranges so close that neither side could use optics effectively. By nightfall on July 12th, both sides had suffered catastrophic losses at Prokhorovka, with no clear victor. German forces in the north had been completely halted. Model's attack had failed at enormous cost. On July 12th, Soviet forces launched Operation Kutuzov, a massive counteroffensive against the Ural salient in the north. Germany was now threatened with encirclement at Ural, the very same move it had planned for Kursk. Adding to the German crisis, Allied forces landed in Sicily on July 10th, threatening Germany's southern flank. Hitler made a fateful decision. He would cancel Operation Citadel and withdraw forces to meet the Italian threat. Manstein furiously protested the withdrawal. He believed victory was still within reach in the south. On July 17th, the official order came: Operation Citadel was terminated. Germany's last great offensive was over. Soviet forces now unleashed a relentless series of counteroffensives across the entire Eastern Front. Operation Polkovodets Rumyantsev, launched August 3rd, shattered the German lines south of Kursk within days. The city of Kharkov was liberated by Soviet forces on August 23, 1943. The final act of the Kursk campaign. The German Wehrmacht had lost approximately 200 men killed, wounded, or captured at Kursk. The Red Army also suffered devastating losses, an estimated 860,000 casualties in the Kursk strategic operation. Critically, Germany could no longer replace the experienced tank crews and commanders lost at Kursk. The Red Army had proven it could absorb massive punishment and then launch devastating, sophisticated counterattacks. The battle destroyed Germany's ability to conduct large-scale strategic offensive operations in the east ever again. After Kursk, the Red Army launched one offensive after another, relentlessly pushing westward toward Berlin. Kursk marked the definitive turning point, the moment Germany forever surrendered the strategic initiative in the east. Soviet military doctrine was transformed by Kursk. Deep battle operations became their standard for victory. The Battle of Prokhorovka became legendary, the largest single-day tank engagement in the history of warfare. The ordinary soldiers who fought and died at Kursk came from villages, factories, and farms across two nations. The battle consumed over 1 million artillery shells, 100,000 tons of bombs, and immeasurable human suffering. Kursk proved that courage alone could not overcome strategy, preparation, and overwhelming industrial power. The Battle of Kursk, where the fate of the Second World War was decided in fire, steel, and blood.